Your Royal Highness, Princess Maha Chakri, Srindhon, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I would actually like to start by congratulating all laureates of PMAC who are today with us, Dr. Eric Green, Professor Porter Anderson, Dr. Rachel Sonerson, Dr. John Robinson, and Professor Mathuram Santoshiran. I don't know if I said it properly. I hope you will excuse me, but I would like to really congratulate you. You're going to change the future of health. I mean, you're going to establish the future of health. That's what I have seen actually from the presentation. As Dr. Green said, just the mapping took 6 to 8 years, and now you're able to do it in 1 to 3 days. It used to cost $1 billion US. Now it's a matter of $1,000 US. This is really amazing progress. And I fully agree with what you said. The future of health begins with you. And look forward to working with you very closely, because in what we do, I know in what WHO does, I know your work will have a significant impact. So to all laureates, please accept my greatest respect and appreciation for your dedication and commitment. As you know, this year marks the 100th anniversary of Spanish flu, the deadliest outbreak in recorded history. Up to 50 million people were killed, more than the death toll from the First World War. The revised estimate actually is between 50 to 100 million people were killed. Thankfully, we have not seen a public health emergency on that scale since then, but we may at any time. Outbreaks are, as you know, a fact of life, and we're still vulnerable. You know that only too well, and even here in Thailand, you have experienced outbreaks of H5N1, SARS, dengue, and more just in the last few years. But you have responded effectively. And I would also like to commend Thailand for being a leader in supporting other countries in times of emergencies and outbreaks, as we have seen recently in Nepal and Sri Lanka. Of course, none of us will ever forget the West African Ebola outbreak in 2014. Apart from its terrible human cost, Ebola also had a devastating economic impact. The IMF reduced its growth projections for sub-Saharan Africa by 10%. Commodity prices plunged, while unemployment and fiscal deficits rose. Ebola taught us a valuable lesson. Global health security is only as strong as its weakest link. No one is safe until everyone is safe. As you know, WHO was sharply criticized for its performance during Ebola. Some of the criticism was fair, some was not. But it did prompt us to overhaul the way we respond to emergencies. This work began under my predecessor, Dr. Margaret Chan, and since becoming Director General last year, I have taken further steps to make our emergency operations more like a national security setup, because it's a serious security issue. I now receive a daily briefing note on the status of all ongoing emergencies globally, and we have also established the WHO Health Security Council, a fortnightly meeting co-chaired by me and my executive director, or my Deputy Director General, Dr. Peter Salama, to review all emergencies in detail. Recently, we also began an exercise with the Wellcome Trust of mapping the capacities of all countries, developed and developing, to contribute to a global health reserve force or health reserve army that can be deployed anywhere in the world within 72 hours to respond to emergencies. And I would like to quote what Dr. Eric Green said: not one lab, all labs, not one country, all countries. That's why working together is very important, and we have started the mapping exercise to map the capacities we have globally in terms of research and development, and also the capacities in terms of emergency preparedness and response. In the past 6 months, WHO has responded to 50 emergencies in 48 countries, including 9 grade 3 emergencies, which is the highest level in our grading system. One of the most severe was the outbreak of plague in Madagascar last year that killed 207 people. But it could have been much worse. Prompt action by the government with support from WHO and other partners meant that we were able to bring the outbreak under control very quickly. I visited Madagascar just last few weeks ago to meet the President of the Republic, and we discussed the plague response, but also need to take action to prevent the next outbreak now by taking action, especially on vector control. The reality is that 70% of the new pathogens come from animals. Increasing demand for food and land and the intensive farming and transport of animals all increase the risk of diseases spreading from animals to humans. So it's obvious that we cannot address human health in isolation. We can only improve human health with a One Health approach that recognizes that the health of humans, animals, and ecosystems are linked, as Her Royal Highness had said in her speech. This is especially true to address the growing threat of antimicrobial resistance. On Monday here in Bangkok, WHO launched the first report from our new global antimicrobial surveillance system known as GLASS. The findings are alarming. In some countries, up to 82% of bacterial infections are resistant to at least one of the most commonly used antibiotics. Resistance to ciprofloxacin is as high as 65% in some countries. For penicillin, it's 51%. One of the most important actions for every country is to set up a robust surveillance system that can track and detect trends in drug resistance. I'm encouraged to say that 52 countries are now enrolled in this system, and more are on the way to joining. But we also need to take cross-sectoral action to address the root causes of the problem. Together with our friends at OIE and FAO, we have a tripartite agreement to work on One Health. For example, together we're fostering research to understand how MERS is crossing from camels into humans. We also collaborate with the agriculture sector to detect, monitor, and respond to influenza viruses with pandemic potential. The cross-sectoral collaboration can not only happen at the global level, it must also happen on the ground, which is why I'm very encouraged that here in Thailand, you have worked successfully across sectors to develop a national strategic plan on antimicrobial resistance. Your Highness, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, keeping the world safe, and as you have seen here, making the world safe, is one of WHO's 3 top strategic priorities in our new 5-year strategic plan, which was endorsed by the Executive Board of WHO last week. We are setting ourselves a goal that over the next 5 years, 1 billion more people will be better protected from epidemics and other health emergencies. And I was very happy when I see so making the world safe, which exactly fits with what we have put in our strategic plan. We're currently developing the tools to measure this, but we already know what we need to do to make people safe. First, we must build and sustain resilient capacities at national, regional, and global levels to prevent, detect, and respond to outbreaks in accordance with the international health regulations, as what Her Highness also underlined, capacities and coordination. That's how she summarized it. And second, we must ensure that populations affected by emergencies have rapid access to essential life-saving health services, including medicines and vaccines. That requires investments in the fabric of the health system, especially in people-centered primary care, to ensure that people can access the services they need when and where they need them. Ultimately, universal health coverage, whose center of gravity should be the primary health care, and health security are two sides of the same coin. That's why we say all roads should lead to universal health coverage, and whose center of gravity should be the primary health care, and back to the basics of health promotion and disease prevention, whose dividend is great, but which is neglected. Outbreaks are inevitable, but epidemics are preventable. If epidemics happen, it's our problem or our mistake. This is not a job, of course, for WHO alone or for the health sector alone. In fact, we cannot succeed unless we all work together. This is what I'm seeking to do at WHO with my colleagues. I look forward to your partnership as we work to keep the world safe. When Dr. Mark Green presented, he said, imagination is sky high. I think with the advance that we have seen, making the world safe is possible, especially if we keep our imagination high. And I will quote him because I really enjoyed his presentation. Not one lab, all labs. Not one country, all countries. Not just in isolation, but together we can make a big difference. So together for a healthier world. Thank you so much. Kop kun krap. Thank you so much.